For MHI Vestas Offshore Wind, and today we thought we would try something a little bit different here at EWEA. We wanted to present the Visionary Debate Series where we invite special guests to talk about issues not necessarily related to wind, but just society in general, and to see what, if anything, we can get out of that. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the stage that we've created here today. You can see that there's some Oculus Rift glasses hanging on the walls behind me. The Oculus Rift experience is a V164 experience, so it's the most powerful turbine in the world. And the experience here, it gives you a chance to feel what it's like on top of the world's most powerful wind turbine at Liverpool Bay. But I'd like to introduce the host of this debate series, Mr. Chris Burns and Claire.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Bon appétit à tout le monde. My name is Chris Burns. I have a talk show on Euronews called The Network. It's usually 10 minutes, 3 people, start a fight. Today, I would like to also have a good, lively discussion, shall we say, a lively exchange of views, if possible, with you and with Claire. And this is about urban environments and how they will be evolving over the next few decades. What will be the role of transport, of how people work and live, and how we will be generating the energy for that. First, I'd like to introduce you to Claire Roumet, who is the Executive Director of Energy Cities. Energy Cities is a network of about 200 locally elected officials that is also working with a covenant of mayors, which is 6,000 mayors representing more than 200 million people, calling for to exceed the EU reduction of CO2 emissions of 20% of CO2 reduction by 2020. They want to exceed that. And this is 6,000 mayors representing more than 200 million people. Claire, how are you working with the Covenant of Mayors to do that?
So indeed, the Covenant of Mayors is a very broad movement that has started in 2009, and it started because the European Commission had decided to have 2020 targets with 20% energy efficiency, 20% renewable, and 20% reduction of greenhouse gas. Then cities, almost by themselves, I've decided to say, okay, we will do also the same commitment, but we will do that commitment voluntarily. And they decided to voluntarily commit by 2020 to exceed the national targets. And what they have committed to is a 28% reduction, which is much more.
So we'll discuss that further. I'd also like to read out a few headlines because this is really happening as we speak. For instance, on my channel, Euronews, we had a recent report about Malmö, a smart city in progress. Today, close to 1/3 of all electricity in the city is produced using renewable resources, with the aim of ensuring that the whole city runs on renewable energy in the next 15 years. That's fast. Another headline from Urban Land, $17 trillion in savings possible for cities with lower carbon emissions. Investing in lower emission public transport using more renewable energy and increasing efficiency in commercial buildings and waste management could generate $17 trillion in savings. This is according to Accelerating Low Carbon Development in the World's Cities, a study from New Climate Economy. And one more headline, Copenhagen, Bristol, and Vaxio, if I'm saying that right, are among 6,000 cities signing up to targets faster than the EU, and I think that's it, and that's in the Guardian newspaper. Let's go first to a question about concrete examples. How are cities doing this? There are also cities in Poland like Bielsko-Biała, in Helsinki, in Lorient, in Malmö. Give us an example, Claire, of how this is working for cities, for people, and for business.
Well, I think the very interesting moment we are living in is because indeed this movement is something that is very diverse. So the starting point of cities are very diverse from the very beginning. And indeed you mentioned Bielsko-Biała. Bielsko-Biała is a very small, or not that small, but it's a small town in the south of Poland. And what they have done is to try to really upgrade their cogeneration and their district heating systems. And by doing so, they have already reached more than minus 20% of greenhouse gas emission.
They've already exceeded that.
They did.
A small town in southern Poland.
Yes.
Great.
It really depends on what you have on the ground. And that's a little bit the message we are usually trying to convey, is to say that the resources, you have it on the ground. You have it in your territory. It depends. Sometimes it will be wind, sometimes it will be biomass, and that's the example of Vecchio. Vecchio is a city which is middle range. It's more than 100,000 inhabitants. It's in the middle of Sweden. And what they have done, it's also an upgrade of the cogeneration with biomass. Now the entire city district heating is 100% renewable, but they also have a very big Volvo automotive plant. And this is now, with solar and biomass, only 100% renewable automotive plant, the first in the world. And it has created a very good dynamics in the territory to make sure that indeed industries, but also local enterprise, the local companies, and especially the municipal companies are very much committed to the target. And this little city in the south of Sweden, they know that they will be fossil-free in 2029. Because when a city has started for a long time already, and in that case they have started their journey 20 years ago, right, they know when they will be out of fossil-free.
This is a good example of, last week I moderated a panel by the International Energy Agency in Brussels, their annual report, their global energy outlook. And interesting on that panel is that you had an electricity, a generator, a utility, E.ON, along with the European Wind Energy Association. Giles was there, and you had an oil company, Statoil, along with of course, the IEA. And there seemed to be sort of a convergence there between, utilities, the petroleum business, the renewable energy business, that there is support, as you mentioned in that one small town, support among business and industry and power generation to really come together and try to bring more renewable energy and make cities greener. That, to me, is a very exciting thing compared to a few years ago. Would anybody like to comment on that or pose a question on that? You're welcome to do that. I'd like to get you involved if possible. I know that there is resistance to this as well. This is also a problem. There are cities that either don't get it or are afraid of perhaps the transition where you might have winners and losers. That's also an issue, isn't that, Claire?
I think indeed in France they have published 2 weeks ago, the French agency ADEME has published a special report on 100% renewable energy by 2050. And the most interesting thing in that report is not that it is possible, because everybody knows now today that it is possible. In 2050, we will be able to be 100% renewable for power production. Maybe not for everything, but for power production, it could be very easy.
So you're saying what Greenpeace is demanding. Greenpeace wants to see 50%,
yes,
100% renewable by 2050, and you're saying that that's possible.
Yeah. I mean, now there is all the scientific evidence that it will be easily happening. But what is not that easy, and the cost of it depends pretty much, at least in this report that the French agency have done in that research, what they have proved is that what will cost most is the social acceptance, is the fact that indeed we don't want the best cost-effective solution because there is some resistance, social resistance to it.
Okay, why the resistance? Why? What are the reasons there, and how do you knock those down?
I believe that, and that's something that we have witnessed in our members, is that because citizens in that case, they are not part of it. if you make them part of the project, and if there is a return on investment on their own investment, if they are allowed to invest in the project, if they are allowed to design the project together with the industry, together with the local authorities, then they own the project. And the problem is the feeling of having a new kind of energy infrastructure that is, like in the past, completely out of the hand of citizens. And it's a democracy issue.
Right. So it does need to be decentralized, locally run, among local citizens and businesses as well,
yes,
right?
Maybe it's a partnership.
A certain part of town or the edge of town, you can set up wind generation or other power generation there that would be accepted by the populace and by the businesses.
But I think in general, infrastructure, and especially big public infrastructure, they have shown all over the world not to be accepted anymore, and it's more an issue of ownership. Who owns it? Who is paying it? And where is the profit going on afterwards? I think there is a general tiredness about that.
What about overcoming the not in my backyard issue, NIMBY, when that comes to certain power generation, including wind?
Well, there is a big company developing a citizen cooperative in Flanders, in Belgium, that is developing a lot of different projects of windmill. And basically, they never had in my backyard effects because there is a return on investment for citizens of more than 7%. Of course, it's not 15% as we could expect for massive investment, but it's a 7% return on investment, and that's enough to make sure that there is not in my backyard effect.
Can I ask the audience, those of you who are listening, if I could have a quick vote on how many cities where you live are actually prepared to move to 50%, or sorry, 100% power generation by 2050? You think how many people think that is possible? By 2050, 100% renewable energy generation. What do you think? How many people believe that? How many people believe that? It's not a lot. It's not. There's a fair amount of skepticism. How many people are actually listening? I think they are actually. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, at least there's hope there. And for somebody who's raised their hand, why do you think that is possible? Can I get somebody to say that? Why do you think that is possible? Could I get somebody there? Anybody? Sir, let's get a microphone over this guy.
Microphone, yeah.
It's on its way. Don't be bashful, y'all. Just let me know. And also, if you have a probing question, let's get it out there, okay? No chairs flying, but let's talk. Sir, if you could stand up and let us know who you are.
My name is Chris Brigham from LM Wind Power.
A little louder, sir, a little louder.
My name is Chris Brigham from LM Wind Power. We're based, our global headquarters is based in Amsterdam, and I'm a resident of Amsterdam. So obviously I imagine a city powered by wind entirely. But I've been lucky enough to sit on the Mayor of Amsterdam's Business Breakfast series, where he invites local businesses to come in and talk very widely about the challenge that I think you very easily and cleverly described. They've even contemplated using remote vehicles for delivery to take high levels of traffic out of the city at times when clearly delivery traffic has a big environmental impact. They're looking incredibly widely and to a wide range of businesses, Heineken, the utilities, the gas companies, even the banks, trying to find new ways of how people interact in the city. So it's a combination, I think, as you rightly pointed out, of the energy supply, of the interaction and commercial vision for the city, and also, I think, of design, of how the infrastructure serves the growth of the city. But certainly I feel Amsterdam, as a British resident of Amsterdam, is leading in this area.
And you think Amsterdam, you think the city is offering enough support for that? Are they helping in terms of urban planning, in terms of logistics?
Yes, they are. And they're also directly engaged in reaching out to local businesses and attracting inward investment, which is how they came to my attention. So I think there is really the opportunity. I think my own experience of living in London as well, 30 years there, has seen the city evolve significantly in environmental terms, but it doesn't have, because of the sheer scale of it and the historical shape of London, the challenge is far greater.
Yeah.
Claire, would you like to mention on that? And if is there anybody else who would like to comment on this and maybe tell the story just like we just heard about Amsterdam? I think that's very interesting. If there are any other cities that you would like to flag up that are actually becoming more receptive to this idea of renewable power generation. Claire, what do you
I think in terms of Amsterdam, it's a very good example because they are very committed and they are trying a lot of different things. It's about trying also. It's about innovating, but it's about trying different things, and some things will not work and some will. But I think in what is specific to European cities is that they are very compact. So indeed, it's a challenge because the structure is not easy to move because it's so compact, but it's also one of its best advantages in comparing to other urban forms. To be so compact that indeed you can imagine a city with only bikes or with a new kind of mobility, and also where you can really try to ensure the combination of the different networks, because one of the key for the future is to go from a centralized sector-specific energy system to a decentralized cross-sector energy system. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously a revolution.
What about on the transport side? I mean, obviously Amsterdam is great for bikes. I almost got hit by a bike the last time I was there. But I mean, how do you encourage cities to make that transition away, to get people out of their cars, basically? How do you do that?
For the moment, there is no city that have really found the solution. Copenhagen, which is one of the best cities with more than 50% of the community.
They have a sustainability mayor.
They have a sustainability mayor.
That's amazing about Copenhagen.
And they are super strong and very ambitious. But for example, Copenhagen, they claim to become the first city and the first capital of the world to be fossil-free, carbon-free. That's the carbon neutral. That's the exact terms they are using by 2025.
That's fast.
But because they know they will not manage to make the transport completely decarbonized by 2025, they said that they will offset the carbon that is produced by the transport sector by investing in other forms that will capture carbon, because they know they will not manage.
Carbon capture? No.
No. Well, you can do carbon capture with trees. I don't know what they have in mind in offsetting, but they will offset.
Right, because I thought that was very interesting last week. The woman from E.ON, who was on the panel last week at the International Energy Agency panel, says she does not believe in carbon capture. I think that's a very interesting, that's just an aside note.
Yeah.
But is there anybody from Copenhagen here? Anybody from Copenhagen? Because I think that's very interesting. Copenhagen is really one of those cities that is said to be very leading on this. But is this actually? Can you do Amsterdam, for instance? Half the people are on their bikes anyway. Copenhagen, quite similar as well. Is this realistic to apply to a city as this one, as Paris? Can you do that?
Well, Paris has wonderful public transport. I mean, you can go from one space to the other, and they need to maybe have more investment on that, and there is electric cars. The general answer to that is that it will always be a very big combination, but it will be more complex. It's not only cars and public transport. It will be many different things, and cars will be co-sharing cars. It will be electric cars, it will be small cars, it will be a new way to have trucks inside, like combined trucks. It's a whole range of different options.
And what about, I think it's also a question of having electric cars, right? And having power charging as well. I know there's an effort for that, but it's pretty slow, isn't it? It's way behind. Or what do you think?
Well, the vice mayor of Delft. Delft is a small city. I mean, not that small, but a small city in Netherlands. And he doesn't see cars as a need for a plug. He sees electric cars as the way he will indeed storage all the future energy that will be not needed or that will be produced by renewables. So he says that for his entire city electricity need in the future, in 2030, he would need only 500 cars to store the electricity and to give it back. So I'm not sure about the plug that is so needed.
Well, what about in Paris? I mean, how quick are they to come
I don't
to
know.
that? You don't know. Anybody who lives in Paris, anybody with EDF here? There's got to be somebody from EDF here. Électricité de France, renouvelable. No? Okay. Or you're bashful. But I think it's very interesting to what extent, and I would like to hear from industry actually, if somebody out there, to what extent should industry be involved in trying to promote recharging facilities in cities? That's going to be a very important part. We have a gentleman over here, please.
Where? Microphone.
Because it probably should be quicker. I mean, should there be more government involvement here, or is this something that business can take upon itself? That's also a very big issue that's going to be at COP21 next month.
Hello?
Yep.
Hi,
that's Mike. Him up, and please let us know who you are.
my name is Jan. I'm a student from European Wind Energy Master, and I'm here with several fellow students. I'm actually currently living... What?
Maybe say it again, because now you got your.
Yeah.
Now you're talking like God, so that's good.
My name is Jan. I am a student of the European Wind Energy Master, which is a program between Delft, Copenhagen, Trondheim, and Oldenburg in Germany.
That's good to know about. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's a relatively new program. I'm in the third cohort, and there's some people from the fourth, so it's pretty new. And I've actually experienced some of the things that are just mentioned now. And I was also thinking about cars and in general, just making people more aware and pushing towards 100% renewably. The nice thing is, for instance, I read that Paris did a car-free Sunday a while back ago, and it was a very good success, and people were considering doing that longer because it was such a success. And I think techniques like that or campaigns like that, which make it very tangible for people living there to see what it's like to change, can really push these things further. You need people to see and experience, just like you need people to be involved in these techniques for them to be accepted. Because if it's something you just see appear, then... Yeah.
Okay, but you're saying the demonstration effect is what's going to make it work? Or do you think there needs to be more than that? Subsidies, requirements, regulation. I mean, how are you going to make this work?
Well,
Mr. Future Energy Commissioner.
For all those things, for subsidy and for other things, what you need most of all is for people to support it. And for people to support it, they either need to know it or they need to have experienced it. So in that sense, if people can see these things, and then when they see another election come up or another ballot, and they say that these people are supporting it,
right,
then they might feel more inclined to actually vote for it, I think. I mean, like I've noticed a lot in the Netherlands, there's 2 wind energy projects, one near Zandvoort, which is a beach town, and one in the north, which is very much getting some negative feedback because people are not feeling involved and they don't want them there anymore.
Exactly. Well, Claire, that's what you mentioned, is trying to get local people in the cities to accept that kind of thing, to have to persuade them to do it. How is that? How do you do that, Claire? How do you persuade? I mean, with 200 mayors in your organization, 200 locally elected officials, how are they doing that? How are they selling that to their people?
Well, I think for the 200 mayors, most of the mayors that take a commitment, I fully agree with you. I think this is the most important, is to experience things. And indeed, the car-free day it's a great example all over Europe. In Brussels, it's the day where everybody takes his bike, and there is more casualties than every other day of the year because there is too many people on bikes. But it is an experience to retake and to re-feel the public space, and to feel that the public space, we own it. And in terms of how to convince, it's not local leaders convincing silly citizens. It's also very visionary citizen convincing local leaders. It's all, I mean, there is not one or another that is the first one. It's a more dynamic at a local level.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. But usually what is the best is that local leaders, they go for it because once the sustainability is something that is valued by citizens in general, and they get re-elected when they are really serious about their sustainability plans.
Yeah, that might be a good master's thesis to study how it's working, how it's being received. You know, you never know. And would anybody else like to comment on the transportation side? Sir, we got a mic over here.
My name is Subramaniam from India, and also I live in Germany, Munich.
I'm sorry, you're with whom now, sir? With which organization or company are you with?
Yeah, I came from India.
Yes.
And have a company, startup company, which is building a wind farms and solar farms in India.
In India, okay. Good.
And I live in Munich.
In Germany?
Munich.
Munich, okay, very good.
Actually, you take like why renewables cannot be 100%. When you take which is a coal-generated power plant, it's a production cost is more than wind and solar. And you see, if you dig out dirty coal in India, and you need to get the coal from Australia, transportation costs and these costs are additional to the power plant. And
imagine the carbon footprint on the carbon must be
huge.
And
also global warming is dangerous for world. And also, see, at the moment, wind power generation is production cost is very lesser than coal and also nuclear power. We have hydel is we cannot build so many big plants, hydel power, and only rest of the things are wind and solar. So only problem is now is storage.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a discussion tomorrow at the same time on energy itself and on storage as well. So we'll
only storage.
Come tomorrow.
And wind plants can be built within a year, and solar plants can build within 6 months.
That's
and
right.
Coal power plants can be built within 5 years, and also coal sources should be there. And those sources, you may not be there in any country, and it may not be. It may be there, and it may not be there. But the digging coal and the transportation costs and all the costs are double the price for solar and wind. So there is no choice than solar and wind. So 100% renewables is possible everywhere. Okay. Maybe it is where there is wind and solar, and maybe in any case like either solar or wind, they can go for it. Okay. So India will be also getting towards the wind and solar.
Would anybody else, thank you very much. Would anybody else like to comment on a city's experience in becoming more sustainable? Claire, can you give us, sorry?
Yeah.
Is there another one? Sir, yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm also from the same...
What's your name?
Michael, sorry.
Michael.
And I'm from the same European Wind Energy Master Program as Jan.
Very good.
And I had a point just to make about transportation, that I think there really is a hope that in the near future we can go clean with transportation, because we see the example from Tesla, where they've...
The electric car company in California.
Yeah, they're doing very well, and they've proved that it is possible to produce good electric cars.
But you got to have like $60,000 to buy the car. 70, 80,000.
Soon, but maybe in a few years that will change, because I think next year they're planning on reducing their affordable model. But maybe in the case where we see not enough leadership from government, Tesla has revealed all of their patents for free for everyone to use. And also similarly, Toyota has recently announced that for hydrogen cars, they've also made all their patents publicly available.
So you think we don't need government intervention? We just leave it up to business, or what?
No, I think government intervention would be good, but it's definitely not there in the transportation sector. And because there is still enough benefit from private sector, that I guess, in a way we don't need it, because they see enough benefit by releasing this. And in the next few years, it's really going to expand into electric and hydrogen cars.
Okay, we hope we see that happen. Anybody else would like to? Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to make a comment? Claire, any comment on that?
Well, the comments is on coal and all the other traditional forms of energy. I think if we would include all the costs that those technology and those energy sources implies for the planet, obviously they are already completely outside any scope of what we could call affordable energy. And it's only because they get a lot of subsidies and because all this damage to the planet is not included into the price that they are still, in a way, competitive. But the beauty of it, I think, is that indeed, even today, even having not included the cost, the negative cost inside the price, even with subsidies, the renewable are very often the best cost-efficient solution without any kind of support. What the renewables need now is more a very stable environment, and the legal environment is not stable because nobody knows exactly, nobody figures out today, except in Denmark, like in Denmark, at national level, they have clearly said we will be fossil-free in 2030 or in 2050. And because of that, then all the investors, they know that they can direct their investment into wind or into sectors because they will be supported for the long term. But it's not the case in most of the countries. So this uncertainty is blocking the transition for the moment because otherwise the costs are definitely for renewable.
What about on housing construction and sort of refitting houses to be more energy efficient? Because I believe the figure is about 40% of the energy use is through housing.
Yes.
On a local level, on a city level, is that how much? What's an example where you see that being dealt with effectively?
So there is examples at local level for every new construction. And it's only possible when a city can have its own building codes. And not all the countries allows a city level or a regional level to have its own building codes.
So the EU can't just say, this is what we want, it has to be that way.
Well,
right?
They did say a little bit because in the EPPD, so in the Energy Performance of Building Directive,
right,
which will be in review next year, they impose that all new buildings should be passive house standards by 2020.
Proposed, but is that binding?
Yes.
It is binding. It
yes.
would be binding if it's
yes.
approved by the Parliament.
Yes. But the thing is that it's 2020 when it's already possible. Like in Brussels region today, if you want to build your own house or even if you want to refurbish your house, if it's not a too small one,
yes,
it's above a certain number of square meters, it has to be meeting the passive standards, passive house standards. So renovation and new construction in Brussels region, it's an obligation. And for doing that, the Brussels ministries, they have worked with all the different stakeholders, with the trade unions of the construction industry, with the construction industry, with the standardization bodies, with the material and craftsmen and so on.
That's where you overcome the resistance.
Yes.
Right.
It took them 10 years, but then they passed it.
Yeah. And one more thing, because we got about 5 minutes left. I don't know if we can go overtime on this, but 5 minutes left. What about the way cities are designed, pedestrian zones, bike lanes? How much are you seeing cities getting involved in that? And there is resistance to that too. I've even seen that in New York City where I've lived, and in Brussels.
With what, sorry?
With pedestrian zones, people, areas without cars.
But again, I think this is all about co-constructing things. You need to really you need to take the time for consulting, but not only consulting, because that's an old-fashioned way of doing local policies, to just consult after, or just having a consultation, but then after you do nothing with what citizens have said, or it's not clear. So I think here the building together the policy and the zone and expressing, so that everybody can be expressing a solution, that's the key. And there will be no problem if it's done like that.
Any final comments from anybody? I think we've had a pretty good discussion here. The MHI Vestas Visionary Debate Series will continue tomorrow, same time, same place, at 13:30. And we will be discussing energy and the question of storage, and of course, as well, the energy mix. Thanks you so much for joining us this time, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Now, don't go away. Check out the Oculus Rift. It's absolutely awesome. And we have, of course, many more sessions today. Check your program. Thank you very much. My name is Chris Burns and Claire Roumet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.